All right, guys, welcome back to TYP Recovery Room, your space where we literally recover from all the chats we have over the 2 weeks for podcast. If you're new here, like, share, subscribe. If you are not new here, like, share, subscribe. And if you're an old face, thank you for being an old face. We love old faces. Bring new faces into the YouTube for TYP. And for those who are new, a bit of context, we have a podcast that we run separately to this channel. And that is obviously found on every podcast platform. But this is just our space to take a chill, chat about the world, and relax and end that podcasting for the week for our YouTube audience. Let's go.
All right. So first thing first, we source our stories typically from the streets of Twitter.
You had to bring that back, did you?
I'm going to.
You
Yeah.
had to
If that's the reason why you restarted the
I'm
recording.
not going to shout, it's late. But I can't believe I did that 1 minute segue for it to end and you go back to that same catchphrase. It's not even a catchphrase. It doesn't deserve the catchphrase title.
Oh, whatever.
But carry on. We've already heard it.
All right. So let's start with a tweet. So this was from a couple of weeks ago. The original tweet says, "I get treated the best when I don't care about the men I date. They don't like people that actually like them." Wait, let me read that again. "I get treated the best when I don't care about the men I date. They don't like people that actually like them." So that was a woman's original tweet, essentially saying, when men treat her well, it's because she doesn't actually like them. And then another woman says, "My theory is, it's not that men only like you when you don't like them. Women just act more emotionally balanced and confident when they don't exert all their energy focusing on a man. And a lot of women don't know how to be this way unless they actually don't like the man." Yes. So, we're not women, but what do you think?
So first tweet says some along the lines of I get men to do good things when I don't like them.
Not that she gets men, but she gets treated the best. Yeah, when she doesn't care about them.
When I don't care about them.
So
and then the response to that is that when women care about men, they act emotionally imbalanced
and not confident.
Which is why when women like men,
the men
don't
treat
like them accordingly.
Yeah.
To that.
So actually, speak from your perspective as a man. Do you agree with that, or is that something that is applicable to you?
No, because good question. Because then you ground in the subjective, right? So that's great. No, because I think it depends on what your history as a man is in terms of how you understand attraction, affection, and your attachment issues, perhaps styles. If you're a man who you find, for some reason, women who display their affection for you, communicate that verbally, non-verbally, and they express it without any kind of game playing or fear. If you find that too much, it could link to your history, it could link to what happened to you in the past, it could link to your childhood, it could link to several things. But that's on you. But then you can also find a man who would find that equally charming and attractive.
Yeah.
And for me, I think I've never shied away from a woman who has expressed what she wanted. My personal opinion. And I'm not playing a game of 3 different women to treat them differently to know how I want to go. Usually a 1-to-1. So if you meet a woman who you have a chance to explore something with, and she shows that expression that I girl was talking about.
Yeah.
If you like the woman, that will not be your issue. Simple as that. Your issue is something else. If that makes you begin to act left.
Yeah.
So this is another classic case of everyone just answering one part of the pie chart, but not the entire pie chart.
Yeah. What I would say is I don't find myself treating someone right when they don't care about me. So I'm wondering the men that.
Exactly, which is why I said, what is the history of these people?
Yeah.
What issues do they have?
Exactly, because for me,
or what's their priorities?
exactly, because for me, if someone is like, on one hand, if someone is treating me like they don't like me, that's not my cue to apply pressure. Like, for me, it's just, all right, on to the next one, or that's your own vibe. But I do get the fact that maybe the way to balance this out is maybe people that are a bit too, I don't want to use the word easy, but maybe someone that love bombs you. Yes, let's do that. Let's use love bombing.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
I'm guessing that example was not like love bombers, right? It's just like people who are just very expressive.
Yeah.
Of course, there's somebody who can just be too much.
But I feel like the reply to it is assuming that, actually no, maybe it's not. But yeah, on the love bombing thing, I think if what she's describing as when she cares about men is that she does certain things that maybe err on the side of love bombing, then I can get why maybe when she does that, she doesn't see, like, you're more, it's like maybe in her own case, she's more likely to find people that treat her right when she doesn't love bomb. But maybe in the scale of what is negative, not caring versus love bombing, like maybe the men she's around respond better to not caring than the love bombing. Like
but also like love bombing, the spectrum of love bombing is different for everybody who's receiving it.
Yeah, fair enough.
So it's another dilemma that can be solved in a Twitter response.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's move on to the next one, which is what is the next one? I opened it down. All right, one of the most important decisions you will make in this world is not who you marry, it's how quickly you make it happen. Too many options has led to too many single mid-30-year-old folks who have been dating different people for 15 years. Too many options is disastrous.
Those are two different arguments I'm hearing.
Okay.
The person put it together like it's sequential, like one is supporting the other. First one is speaking about decision to making a proposal / engagement.
Yeah.
Second one is speaking about choosing somebody based on availability of options, whether single or in a relationship. I think they're different, right? No?
So I think he's saying that one of the reasons, or a key reason why people don't make the marriage decision quickly, is because they are dealing with too many options, right? So it's tied.
But how are you dealing with options if you in a committed relationship?
No. So it's like people are not even getting into a committed relationship in order to make the marriage decision because they are busy sampling. Yeah, it's like
so they're speaking from people who are single.
Yeah, exactly. Not people that are dating and not yet married.
Oh,
yeah.
So to me, that's a simple question. A more interesting question would actually be, if you're in a committed relationship,
why are you waiting to get not
the speed of this not the speed, but the perhaps the most effective timeline between committed to decision to get married.
Why are people wasting time there?
I won't use the word waste because that might be unfair, but
yeah,
the length of time being longer to shorter, what does that mean and what does that impact? That's a more interesting question. It's a simple. I think it's simple. I think we all agree that us knowing that we have so many options in the world does not help.
Yeah.
Many who might already be indecisive.
Yeah.
Across products, across your perfume, across your potential spouses.
Yeah. Yeah. Fair enough.
So I think the more interesting question is to ask,
how soon?
Wait, can you read the first part again? Just the first part.
One of the most important decisions you will make in this world is not who you marry, it's how quickly you make it happen.
Yes, so how quickly you make that decision from the point of commitment. That's a more interesting question for me.
Yeah. So what are your factors? What factors do?
And how that impacts the future of the relationship.
fair enough. So I was asking, what are your factors? Like, what do you think? Because I think for some people, particularly on this side of the world, it's usually around economic capacity. Sometimes, like once you found the person you're dating, you don't want to
to be fair, I think around the world it's go on, sorry.
Yeah, you don't want to get into like marriage because people think, and maybe there is evidence in some kind of ways that it takes a certain amount of resources to be able to, I guess, fund a marriage, which is weird because I think some people think about it also on the wedding ceremony side. Like if they don't have enough money to put together the kind of ceremony that they want or they feel they deserve, they hold the decision to get married. For other people, it's the fact that, well, when we get married, there's certain things that we're going to have to do. You know, if we do decide to have children, all those sorts of things. So people delay that decision to make sure that by the time they're getting married, they're financially capable to do certain things to different degrees based on where you're from, right? I think also the kind of culture that you're from and the kind of environment you've grown up in also inspires what that is enough now. Let's go get married is. I think on the Eastern side, there's a more tendency to want to have done certain things and have a certain amount more than I think it's been on the Southwest side of Nigeria. But I could be wrong about that. But yeah.
No, it's a very complex question, even though I brought it up. It depends on the individual, the society, the other factors in play. I think the Western world, the more Western world, like the UK, it might be easier than a typical Nigerian in the sense of there's less cultural pressure on the marquee wedding day. So that means you're not thinking too much about what people might think if the wedding day doesn't happen traditionally.
Yeah.
If it doesn't happen in the way it should happen. So, for example, people here can just, if somebody here gets married in a court, they can have a celebration with close friends without anybody feeling as much being judged as you would have back home. My assumption, based on my experience, I might be wrong. Let me know. There's that. There's also the question of how much do you really know that your reason for not getting married is truly because of lack of resources and not something else. As human beings, it's hard to be truly sure that what we think is our reason on paper is the real reason behind our psychology and subconscious. You get what I mean? Because if you think about it, it's like people will say, I don't want to do this thing now. I'm out do it in 2 months when I'm ready. But then if you start it now, 2 months still gonna come anyway. So I know getting married is not the same thing as starting up a new hobby, for example. But I guess my point is, if for example the case whereby I want to get married, but I haven't got perhaps enough money for the wedding that I want. Right. It is a valid thing to think that, okay, yeah, I'll delay this decision, which is something that I've thought about, to be fair. But then, if you're going to delay something by 2 years, then we need to reevaluate. I will evaluate the importance of what I want to achieve in the first place.
Yeah.
If I delaying by 1 year, I guess that's understandable. But if I'm thinking 2 years, 3 years, I'm thinking, okay, is it that? So the time scale you're delaying for also matters in terms of how I'll measure the importance of that delay in the first place. But also your partner you're marrying also matters as well, because if you're on the same page in terms of your vision for where you're going, you would understand what the day of marriage, the joining together really means in terms of when and how you go about it. There's some spouses who like, bruv, let's just do this thing. When we get the money, we'll sort it out, even if it's a year from now. Because for us, what matters for us now is to just get married. We really want to be married.
Yeah.
Right. And both partners just really, they put that first. Like, we really want to marry. Without anybody's force, we just want to get married.
Yeah.
Whereas for some, it's like, no, we want that day to be this way with our friends, family, everybody. So we want, and we both want that day, jointly want that day. We've seen it, we've had it in our vision board, we've visualized it for months. So let's wait. right? I think issues may not emerge if both partners are not in congruence with how they want that day as well, which again is another dilemma.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's just for me. I think it's about being aligned with your partner, ensuring that the timeline you're sacrificing for is not a ridiculous timeline. That doesn't make the wait not worth it anymore. And I guess thinking about how much the cultural pressure really means to me as well, because whether I'm doing it for other people or for myself.
Yeah.
Simple as that, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, quick one. So your mic, can you lower it just a bit? Just to avoid the shadows as much. Yeah.
It's all right.
Yeah. It's even a bit loud at this point, so that's good. All right. So what I was going to say is, I think there's also there's actually research, I think I'll have to find it, that shows that the earning capacity of couples more often than not increases, like not just as X plus X becoming 2X, but that X plus X becoming a larger multiple. So like together as a family, your financial situation actually becomes better than if you were both individual part. So there's also that piece as well, but that isn't talked about as much, and people aren't very quick to see that as a possibility. But I think there's also a confidence that comes with knowing a potential versus something that's actually like already in your hands. I think that's also still another part to play. All right, the next one is around trigger warnings. So I'm just gonna read. It was a screenshot from another tweet. So it says, I think this was based on a research paper or something called "I Was Wrong About Trigger Warnings. Has the national obsession with trauma done real damage to teen girls?" by Jill Filipovich. But then this is a section of that, and it says the issue only got more complicated from there. Around 2016, Richard Friedman, who ran the student mental health program at Cornell for 22 years, started seeing the number of people seeking help each year increase by 10 or 50%. Not just that, he told me, but the way young people were talking about upsetting events changed. He described this sense of being harmed by things that were unfamiliar and uncomfortable. The language that was being used seemed inflated relative to the actual harm that could be done. I mean, I was surprised. People were very upset about things that we would never have thought would be dangerous. Some students, for instance, complained about lecturers who'd made comments they disliked, or teachers whose beliefs contradicted their personal values. This actually reminds me of a section of, there's a part in McJay's book that talks a bit about this as well. How people with, it was something about like the brain and all of that. There's a part of your brain that as you grow older gets stronger in terms of its resistance to external pressure and uncomfortable situations, and puts it in the context of larger things. But that for a lot of people, if you don't put yourself in enough of those situations where you can build that capacity, then a lot of life's events that would naturally come would put you down more than it should, because you've not developed that part of yourself of responding to those kinds of situations. So whereas when you have a bad day, it almost affects you very significantly, as opposed to boxing it and putting it in the fact that, okay, yeah, today wasn't that great, but then there's tomorrow. Again, that's maybe trivializing it in a small kind of way, but that's what reading this reminded me of. But I'll see if I can find it, but let me let you react to it.
No, nothing to react to that, to be honest. We know where the world is going. We've heard the stories. There's nothing to react to there. Not surprising. The reasons are endless. To be honest. We can talk about it for days. The culture wars, ideology, soft ways of raising people, millennial parents emerging. What else? Emphasis on feelings over facts. What else? What are we going? I mean, mental health obsession. Not awareness, but obsession is different. I mean, the list goes on. The universities changing how they understand students in terms of the model of seeing students as customers as opposed to students. List goes on. So this will only continue. simple because of everything begins in university. Like when I was in my PhD, I saw it several degrees. When I went back to the university to engage in some kind of contribution, I felt like I was in a different world, even though I'd only left for 6 months. But I was in somewhere talk about wellness, even though I'd been in that same room months ago. But when I just went back, I just realized how much separated they are from the real world. And when anybody said that while I was there, I felt annoyed, like they're being snobbish. But now I get it. So, yeah.
Yeah.
I think eventually the issue is that kids are they're not helped to be groomed for the world that we all live in. And the real world, regardless of what anybody says online, is the real world doesn't care about as an adult. There's consequences for everything. And when you're in the real world, you face those consequences for action or inaction. And when kids are exposed to these things, like just common disagreements in beliefs or ideas, or disagreements in never disagreement, just as you said, words that might trigger people, the protection doesn't do them a lot of harm. Sorry, a lot of good, and this things happen. But this is stuff that's gone around the media, around everybody's podcast conversation for like the last 3 years.
Yeah.
Nothing here is news per se. I can only just say, as I always say, bro, focus on myself and my family.
Yeah.
That's it.
So the last part I'll just add to that is another section of the book says applying the language of trauma to an event changes the way we process it. That may be a good thing, allowing a person to face a moment that truly cleaved their life into a before and an after, and to seek help and begin healing. Or it may amplify feelings of helplessness and hopelessness, elevating those feelings above a sense of competence and control. So again,
absolutely,
as with everything in the world, I think it's a thing of balance. And I think balance is a word that, as a world right now, people like to hear, because it has to be this or that, tit or tat, left or right, red or blue. Like there's always extremes. And one thing I'm learning, and I've always known, but relearning and being exposed to, because I'm doing this Bible plan that also mentions the thing around how there's times and seasons, right? So even in the Bible, there's a time to cry and a time to be joyful, times of peace and times of war. Obviously, we think about that as, okay, there's a time for everything, but it also lets me know that in this space, those things would always exist, right? And it's not ever going to be one or the other. There's always going to be that middle, and you have to be able to deal with the other side of things if you prefer one side. But it feels like the internet, and we've said this over and over again, echo chambers, blah 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 blah, but it's actually getting so bad right now, or I'm seeing it a lot more, particularly on like football Twitter. Like, it actually annoys me a lot.
Yeah, whenever I spoke about football Twitter, that I never really
dipped it,
but obviously I've been active on Twitter now, not by tweeting, but by maybe observing, doing the orbiting, as they call it. I see it now, and I see like it's getting a problem.
Yeah,
I think there's many issues. But one of the issues that I recognize this as is, fundamentally, we are losing the ability to, and the diligence to find nuances. And why that's important here is, if I'm talking about, let's say I'm talking about something that happened to me today, right? And this is something that I appreciate my girlfriend for helping me with, because she does make me find nuances. The easier thing to explain an event that I want a reaction from you for is to either describe the event in the most top way or in the least top way. Right? But what will take effort is for me to actually think about where does that event place in this scale of terrible to not terrible. And that requires effort. Right? It's the same way with the trauma thing. Trauma is probably the peak of how you make and describe something to trigger a reaction or to think about how we can prioritize it, right? But it could be that there could be levels below that we could actually think about to evaluate and find, okay, this is not trauma, but where actually is it? But that effort is lost. That effort is seen as not needed. That effort is not even understood as an effort. The easier thing is always to find the top labels. It's the same reason why people will label you. If someone doesn't like something you've said, they'll label you probably in the worst way.
Yeah.
Because they don't want to find any nuance in between. The worst way would get the reaction that they want. And then that does the job.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a very good way to put it, that we've lost the ability to find nuance in
ability,
things.
desire, diligence. I don't know what it is, but
something. Yeah.
Yeah, something.
Yeah.
Something.
Yeah.
It's a shame.
It is. And I think it's also the fact that, because at the end of the day, I say this thing a lot, that everything is a bit commercialized, and so things that get incentivized across different categories are not necessarily for the net positive for everybody involved in that sort of way. Like, you know, the thing about bad news sales, all of those sorts of things. And I think when you get sucked into the machine that is the internet and all of those things, and you forget that although for you it's just you coming to consume content and whatnot, there's a lot of decisions being made behind the scenes that incentivize certain things that produce certain results. And yeah, that complicates things quite a lot for a lot of people. And for me, it's just something I like to think about. And I'll keep saying football Twitter. And for me, it's just every time I just remind myself that, okay, because you can almost feel yourself all wanting to react to certain things. Someone plays a game, like, it's like, if Odegaard is good, then Fernandes is trash. And if you're an Arsenal supporter, you cannot like any other player, and every other player that does something is terrible. Or why are you telling me Haaland should win Ballon d'Or because he only scored goals? Messi should do it. Or Messi's better than Ronaldo. See, Ronaldo is in Saudi Arabia now. This guy's in. It's like, you know, they tire you people. That's what I just went to think. It's like, doesn't it just get tiring? Can you not just be able to appreciate things?
Let me tell you what give me peace in this thing.
Yeah.
In all these things. I feel like the world hasn't changed from 1,000 years ago. People like these always existed. And I feel I've come to realize now is that in this world, even though we all have our different destinies, missions, life societies, there is probably a category that probably is nameless for now. I can't think of a name. But it's a category that we all fall into, that we play a role. That describes a role that we play in the world. And some people's role, unfortunately, is to be those people. And maybe to them, they won't see it. And I'm not saying I'm the only one that has the eyes, that my eyes are open. No, that's not what I'm saying. But I just feel like I get solace in thinking that some people are meant to play that role because society is not going to change. Because all humans have to have nuances of humans. And they are meant to play that role. And I'm playing my role of one of the few who wants to do the work of finding the nuance and stepping out of the algorithm.
Stepping out of the algorithm. That was, when did we? I feel like
that was the one of the front running names for the pod.
Yeah, but was it when we switched into the yellow pill? Well, yeah, it was around that period. It was a thing that we spoke about. I just was like, I just feel so familiar. Anyways, guys, that brings us to the end of another recovery room session. This was a bit different. We didn't do too many casual things because, as always, we tend to just naturally.
Can we talk about the lady who
smashed the
tennis
rackets.
player?
Okay. So I've seen different takes about that, right? So for context, guys.
Okay,
give
context.
So context, U.S. Open, the women's game, Coco Gauff, how would you call her name? Yeah, she won the U.S. Open, right? And then the person she played against, was he Iga?
No idea, I don't watch tennis.
Yeah, I think it was Iga. And so there's a video of her away from the crowd in her changing room or whatnot, taking out a racket out of her rackets bag and smashing it on the floor and then throwing it in the trash. And
videos from CCTV, by the way, CCTV
footage. All right. So my initial reaction to that was, she was in a private place, and like it's different because we've seen people actually do it out there, like in front of the crowd. Immediately it happens, and this. But for me, it almost felt like maybe a ritual or a routine. Like, if I don't win with this racket, I'm going to smash it, right? So, but for me, it was just this. Honestly, that's what I thought about. Like, it didn't seem too sinister to me, because it wasn't like she smashed it, walked into the trash and dumped it. Before then, there's actually a picture and a picture after of somebody that found the racket in the trash, brought it out, and she took a picture with the person. Like, there's that has come out as well. So for me, I think the thing was, that was a private movement. I don't think she thought anybody was watching, and obviously everything is content these days, and so they put it out there and put a narrative around it.
Everything is content.
Like she's a sore loser or something like that. And I'm like, that's reaching. But I don't know. What were your thoughts?
She's definitely knows. I loved it. I love seeing her smash the racket. Yeah. I love that. I think I was like, go girl, smash it. You should be upset you lost. It's good at mentality. I don't see that as being a sore loser or being violent. We don't know how hard this girl worked to win this. I don't even know. We have no clue.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You have no clue. A lot of people don't know how much goes into elite sports. Like, you have no idea. I have no idea too. Theoretically, I can imagine, but practically, I have no idea. Right? So, that kind of, and you can imagine, when the game is done, you have to maintain your cool, shake the hand of your opponent, but you're pissed off at yourself because you might even know what you could have done better. You might even know that you got whatever it is. So she held all of that annoyance, at least till she thought she was alone. So good on her for holding it in.
Exactly.
So she done the job for all of you public people. Say, okay, I've done my public appearance, done it well, and now she's in somewhere private, and then the guys leaked the CCTV footage. Yeah. So if anybody finds that offensive or finds that as a sore loser, it goes back to a point of they're playing their role in this world as those who don't open their eyes. And that's fair.
Yeah. And this also bleeds into what's going on in football right now, where they're almost trying to police emotions in a sort of way. I
hate that thing so much. I might stop watching football because of it, because I feel like it's one of the things that I can actually go and protest against. If there's a protest in London right now, and that's one that I can join. I'm not lying to you. I say this with seriousness.
Yeah.
Because I hate the idea of trying to make professionals emotionless. And you can't do that, particularly if we're at work, in the workplace. I understand it because the jobs we do in our workplace don't build up
that kind of
competitive spirit. Don't build up your hormones. They don't do that.
Yeah.
And those jobs you can still be annoyed.
Yeah.
But when I'm talking about sport, where you train, you run, your body's pumped, and then you can't react. And the worst part is, I think you can tell some of these decisions are probably not made by people who play football.
Yeah.
So anyway, if they put us out there, maybe in 1 year, I might join. I might write a post about it. I might, because to me it's really annoying to see as a fan.
Yeah.
And it even drove me to watching Rugby World Cup over the weekend, because I think football is beginning to piss me off.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah. Hopefully it's one of those things where they take things too much to one side and eventually find a medium point. But honestly, like, I think the problem with, like, I just was maybe a couple of months or years ago that I found out all the referees in the game are from the same area, the Greater Manchester area, in the UK. So it creates problems because not anybody can just come and ref. You have to be from that area. So all of the refs
Why?
are just because of it's one of the old relics of the game that has just stayed. Because when let's wrap it up. It's 34 minutes. Yeah.
That's a good chat. I'll ask you about it later, but I know you told me about time earlier.
Yeah,
and want
yeah,
to.
Yeah.
But cool. I didn't know that. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, no. Just tell me why. I'll wrap it up.
No, I don't know why. It's from, but
okay.
it's always been the case, and it hasn't changed. So right now, if you all the refs are from the Greater Manchester area, and not even from like, I think you have to. There's so many things you need to do to get into the elite refereeing, whatever. But that location thing plays a big factor in why it's the way it is, and so that's why there's a lot of camaraderie going on, and you see them saying things like, "Oh, it was my mates. That's why I didn't." Call for that thing. Like, there's a whole thing going on. People are arguing that for a sport that is as global and is becoming like this exported, it is already this like global thing that everyone pays attention to, and is played at the topmost level. For you to have that kind of problem affecting it is quite ridiculous. So something to explore at some other points. Power is back on. That's what happened.
One day I'll start watching football. I'll start watching rugby and boxing only.
Anyways, all right, guys. It's been a nice recovery room session. See you in 2 weeks. This is the sequence. But follow us on the podcast. Everybody. All the links are in the description. You know what to do.
Yep. Peace out. Thank you.
Alrighty.